Hey everyone, Derpy here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how to build mortar holes for the Forsaken mission. I'm also going to be talking in a separate video, which is uploaded at the same time, how to build tanks for the Forsaken mission to go with this video. The link will be in the description, so make sure you go check that out right after this. So tank number 1 is the Citadel. This is fairly inexpensive and is in a low tier of the Forsaken mission. So this is a mortar hole. So you're going to want to put mortars on it. And if you have the Citadel, you're probably only going to have around Judgment mortars or coaxial mortars, which are almost the same in damage type. The coaxial just weighs a little bit less. So I'm going to put that on all my weapon slots on my Citadel. Once that's done, I'm going to focus on some specials that will boost up this mortar. So the first thing you're going to want is actually a speed system, an engine, because that's going to allow you to move around so you can actually shoot stuff. I've chosen Speed System 5, but if you don't have that, just stick Engine 3, Speed System 4 on it, whatever else you have. So along with that, we're going to want to be buffing our mortars. So for that, it's mostly offense. So you can use Combustion System, which makes it fire faster and adds more splash, both great things. You can also use Combustion System 2, which makes it more projectile speed, more spread, and more splash, which is a little bit better, but has a little bit more weapon weight. You can also use Explosive System 4, which does pretty much the same thing. For this example, I'm just going to choose Combustion System 1. Additionally, we're going to want to add some building damage onto that. Siege Targeting 3 here adds 93% building damage when it's retrofitted to level 15. That will help these mortars deal more damage to the buildings, which is mostly what you're going to be facing. I'm also going to add Siege Battery 3, because that does building damage too, and it will also stack. If you have Garrison Battery, you can use that, because that's going to be a little bit better, but you might not have that if the only thing you have is the Citadel. And because you're using mortars, the last thing you're going to want to add is some splash. And you have a couple of different ways you can do this. You can use Splash Upgrade, which just adds 12%. You can also use Viscosity Regulator, which has 50%, and a couple different options too. I'm just going to choose Splash Upgrade. And that's pretty much it. You can add some extra armor here, but if you're a good driver, you shouldn't be getting hit with your Citadels. One thing some people like to do is to add V Armor, which adds combat speed and makes them move around faster. But that's not really necessary. This is only in a 10 or 11 day build time, which is pretty good. So important things on this build. I loaded it out with coaxials, mortars, or judgment mortars work fine too. If you don't have those, just try to use the best one you can. I put an engine on here so it can move around. I put combustion system, explosive system, or combustion system 2 on here, just to add more projectile speed and splash. I also put Siege Targeting 3 and Siege Battery 3 to add extra damage to it, and Splash Upgrade just to add a little bit of splash. I didn't put anything in the armors because I will just add repair time. So now mortar number 2. This one I'm going to jump straight into the Monolith. This was only 3 million points in the last raid, and was probably going to be in the FM after I release this video. The Monolith is a really good ship for this, so you should really try to get it. Now with the Monolith, this build will work pretty decently, but you can do it still a little bit better than that. There's an extra spot for that, and I'm going to add actually some Alloy Armor MX3 in here to prevent him against some more damage, because you still might get hit in your backline. This is a pretty good basic build, but you can still improve on this. For example, there are only coaxial firestorms here, and these are not the best mortar in the game. For that, you're going to want to use either the Combat Mortar OU, which will do decently, or the slightly better Siege Mortar D85D, which is going to do better than that. This one is currently offered in the Forsaken mission, and maybe other places as well. If you don't have one, just use Combat Mortar, and if you don't have either of them, you could just stick with the Judgments or Coaxials. Now for this build, I'm going to make a little bit of a special change to this. I'm going to start out with removing Combustion System, Splash Upgrade, Siege Battery, and Siege Targeting. Instead, I'm going to put on one of the specials that came with the Monolith, this high yield warheads. This will add projectile speed, splash, building damage, or wall damage. If you don't have this, you can also use, which I actually like more, the high velocity rounds, just because it adds even more projectile speed. Either one of those will really work. The bad thing is it doesn't stock with siege targeting, so you can only manage to use siege battery on this. Now, I'm also going to put combustion system 2 on here because that increases splash and spread, which means you hit a wider area and do even more damage. Now for this last special, I'm just going to add something that adds a bit more splash, and you have two options for this really. You can use viscosity regulator, or you can use narrow firing aperture. I personally like viscosity regulator. And this will actually bring your build overweight, so you might have to take some of these mortars and take it off. And for armor, you can leave it blank like I did here, or if you want to take off some more mortars, you can add some armor. If you have it, charged armor will work really well if you make a mistake, but once again, it's not necessary in these targets. For the next mortar hole I'm going to be talking about, we're actually going to have to clear everything and start all over. This one is a generalist, which is the Empyrean. And the Empyrean is kind of weird because, like I said, it's a generalist, so it allows you to put on some different types of weapons. For example, the adapted Imperial Mortar D100Z only goes on the generalist holes. The Empyrean is really good for this. If you just stick it on all the weapon slots there, that'll be a pretty good mortar for you. Now, moving on to specials. These are going to be kind of similar, but we're going to be able to use slightly different ones once again because these are generalist. The trajectory plotter here adds projectile speed, mortar reload, minuses spread, and adds some splash. You can also add siege charging 3 and siege battery 3 to this one also. Although once again you might consider replacing siege battery 3 with high velocity rounds if you have it. This last one is kind of a weird one. Once again, you can put various splash ones like narrow firing aperture and viscosity regulator into it, or you can put a defense one like alloy armor or MX. Now besides armor, there's one spot left here, heavy weapon slots. There are only a couple things to go in here, and the one I'm going to be adding on here, if you have it, which I actually don't, is the heavy Ragnarok mortar. This will add a whole bunch of weight, but will also be super good because it deals a whole bunch of damage and it gives you a bunch of defense. So on this one, you might have to play with your specials a bit, change some of them out, maybe even remove some of these mortars, which will actually still be worth it because this huge one is so powerful. Armor, you can just leave it blank, or you can add charged armor if you have that because that will really help you out. So thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a like. That really helps me out, lets me know how to help you. And if you want more Battle Pirates content, both strategy and gameplay, leave a subscribe. Thank you.